In Judaism, chosenness is the belief that the Jews, via descent from the ancient Israelites, are the chosen people, i.e., chosen to be in a covenant with God. The idea of the Israelites being chosen by God is found most directly in the book of Deuteronomy as the verb bahar, and is alluded to elsewhere in the Hebrew Bible using other terms such as holy people. Much is written about these topics in rabbinic literature. The three largest Jewish denominations, Orthodox Judaism, Conservative Judaism and Reform Judaism, maintain the belief that the Jews have been chosen by God for a purpose. Sometimes this choice is seen as charging the Jewish people with a specific mission, to be a light unto the nations, and to exemplify the covenant with God as described in the Torah. This view, however, did not preclude a belief that God has a relationship with other peoples. Rather, Judaism held that God had entered into a covenant with all humankind, and that Jews and non-Jews alike have a relationship with God. Biblical references as well as rabbinic literature support this view. Moses refers to the God of the spirits of all flesh, and the Tanakh also identifies prophets outside the community of Israel. Based on these statements, some rabbis theorize that, in the words of Nebanel ibn Fayumi, a Yemenite Jewish theologian of the 12th century, God permitted to every people something he forbade to others, and God sends a prophet to every people according to their own language. The Mishnah states that humanity was produced from one man, Adam, to show God's greatness. When a man mints a coin in a press, each coin is identical. But when the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He, creates people in the form of Adam, not one is similar to any other. The Mishnah continues, and states that anyone who kills or saves a single human, not Jewish, life, has done the same to an entire world. The Tosefta, a collection of important post-Talmudist discourses, also states, righteous people of all nations have a share in the world to come. According to the Israel Democracy Institute, approximately two-thirds of Israeli Jews believe that Jews are the chosen people in the Bible. According to the traditional Jewish interpretation of the Bible, Israel's character as the chosen people is unconditional, as it says in Deuteronomy chapter 14 verse 2, "For you are a holy people to Yahweh your God, and God has chosen you to be His treasured people from all the nations that are on the face of the earth." The Torah also says, "Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me from all the peoples, for all the earth is mine." God promises that He will never exchange His people with any other. "And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after you in their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be God to you and your descendants after you." Other Torah verses about chosenness, "And you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, and a holy nation. The Lord did not set His love upon you, nor choose you, because you were more in number than any people, for you were the fewest of all people, but because the Lord loved you, and because He would keep the oath which He had sworn unto your ancestors." The obligation imposed upon the Israelites was emphasized by the prophet Amos. "You only have I singled out of all the families of the earth. Therefore will I visit upon you all your iniquities." Rabbinic views. Sometimes this choice is seen as charging the Jewish people with a specific mission, to be a light unto the nations, and to exemplify the covenant with God as described in the Torah. This view, however, did not preclude a belief that God has a relationship with other peoples. Rather, Judaism held that God had entered into a covenant with all humankind, and that Jews and non-Jews alike have a relationship with God. Biblical references as well as rabbinic literature support this view. Moses refers to the God of the spirits of all flesh, and the Tanakh also identifies prophets outside the community of Israel. Based on these statements, some rabbis theorize that, in the words of Nebanel ibn Fayumi, a Yemenite Jewish theologian of the 12th century, God permitted to every people something he forbade to others, and God sends a prophet to every people according to their own language. The Mishnah states that humanity was produced from one man, Adam, to show God's greatness. When a man mints a coin in a press, each coin is identical. But where the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He, creates people in the form of Adam, not one is similar to any other. The Mishnah continues and states that anyone who kills or saves a single human, not Jewish, life, has done the same to an entire world. The Tosefta, a collection of important post-Talmudist discourses, also states, righteous people of all nations have a share in the world to come. The idea of chosenness has traditionally been interpreted by Jews in two ways. One way is that God chose the Israelites, while the other is that the Israelites chose God, although collectively this choice was made freely. Religious Jews believe that it created individual obligation for the descendants of the Israelites. Another opinion is that the choice was free in a limited context. Thus, although the Jews chose to follow precepts ordained by God, the Kabbalah and Tanya teach that even prior to creation, the Jewish soul was already chosen. Crucial to the Jewish notion of chosenness is that it creates obligations exclusive to Jews, while non-Jews receive from God other covenants and other responsibilities. Generally, it does not entail exclusive rewards for Jews. Classical rabbinic literature in the Mishnah Avot 3:14 has this teaching. Rabbi Akiva used to say, "Beloved is man, for he was created in God's image," and the fact that God made it known that man was created in his image is indicative of an even greater love. As the verse states, Genesis chapter 9 verse 6, "In the image of God, man was created." The Mishnah goes on to say, "Beloved are the people Israel, for they are called children of God." It is even a greater love that it was made known to them that they are called children of God, as it said, "You are the children of the Lord, your God." Beloved are the people Israel, for a precious article, the Torah, was given to them. Most Jewish texts do not state that God chose the Jews by itself. Rather, this is usually linked with a mission or purpose, such as proclaiming God's message among all the nations. Even though Jews cannot become unchosen if they shirk their mission, this implies a special duty, which evolves from the belief that Jews have been pledged by the covenant which God concluded with the biblical patriarch Abraham, their ancestor, and again with the entire Jewish nation at Mount Sinai. In this view, Jews are charged with living a holy life as God's priest people. In the Jewish prayer book, chosenness is referred to in a number of ways. The blessing for reading the Torah reads, "Praised are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has chosen us out of all the nations and bestowed upon us his Torah." In the Kiddush, a prayer of sanctification, in which the Sabbath is inaugurated over a cup of wine, the text reads, "For you have chosen us, and sanctified us out of all the nations, and have given us the Sabbath as an inheritance in love and favor. Praised are you, Lord, who hallows the Sabbath." In the Kiddush, recited on festivals, it says, "Blessed are you, who have chosen us from among all nations, raised us above all tongues, and made us holy through his commandments." The Alanu prayer refers to the concept of Jews as a chosen people. It is our duty to praise the Master of all, to exalt the Creator of the universe, who has not made us like the nations of the world and has not placed us like the families of the earth, who has not designed our destiny to be like theirs, nor our lot like that of all their multitude. We bend the knee and bow and acknowledge before the Supreme King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He, that it is He who stretched forth the heavens and founded the earth. His seat of glory is in the heavens above, his abode of majesty is in the lofty heights. An earlier form of this prayer, in use during the medieval era, contained an extra sentence. It is our duty to praise the Master of all, to exalt the Creator of the universe, who has not made us like the nations of the world and has not placed us like the families of the earth, who has not designed our destiny to be like theirs, nor our lot like that of all their multitude, who worship mist and emptiness and pray to a God who cannot save. This sentence in italics is an allusion to the Bible, Isaiah. Assemble yourselves and come, draw near together. Ye that are escaped of the nations, they have no knowledge that carry the wood of their graven image, and pray unto a God that cannot save. In the medieval era, some within the Christian community came to believe that this line referred to Christians worshipping Jesus. They demanded that it be excised. Ismael Bogen, a historian of the Jewish liturgy, held that the early form of the prayer predated Christianity, and could not possibly have referred to it. Further interpretations. The following section contains information from the Jewish Encyclopedia, originally published between 1901 to 1906, which is in the public domain. According to the rabbis, Israel is of all nations the most willful or headstrong one, and the Torah was to give it the right scope and power of resistance, or else the world could not have withstood its fierceness. The Lord offered the law to all nations, but all refused to accept it except Israel. How do we understand? A Gentile who consecrates his life to the study and observance of the law ranks as high as the high priest, says R. Meir, by deduction from Lev. XVII. 5-2 Sam. 7:19. ISO. XXVI. 2 Ps. X23. 1. CXVIII. 20. CXXV. 4. Where all stress is laid not on Israel, but on man or the righteous one. The Gemara states this regarding a non-Jew who studies Torah, his 7 mitzvot, and regarding this, see Shita Mekobetzes. Bava Kama 38a, who says that this is an exaggeration. In any case, this statement was not extolling the non-Jew. The Rishonim explain that it is extolling the Torah. Tosfos explains that it uses the example of a Kohen Gadol, because this statement is based on the verse, Je'erahim ipnimim. This is explained elsewhere in the Gemara to mean that the Torah is more precious namim, which refers to Lifnei v Lifnim. That is the Holy of Holies where the Kohen Gadol went. In any case, in Midrash Rabbah this statement is made with an important addition. A non-Jew who converts and studies Torah etc. The nation of Israel is likened to the olive. Just as this fruit yields its precious oil only after being much pressed and squeezed, so Israel's destiny is one of great oppression and hardship, in order that it may thereby give forth its illuminating wisdom. Poverty is the quality most befitting Israel as the chosen people. Only on account of its good works is Israel among the nations, as the lily among thorns, or as wheat among the chaff. Modern Orthodox views. Rabbi Lord Emanuel Jacobowitz, former chief rabbi of the United Synagogue of Great Britain, describes chosenness in this way. Yes, I do believe that the chosen people concept as affirmed by Judaism in its Holy Writ, its prayers, and its millennial tradition. In fact, I believe that every people, and indeed, in a more limited way, every individual, is chosen, or destined for some distinct purpose in advancing the designs of providence. Only, some fulfill their mission and others do not. Maybe the Greeks were chosen for their unique contributions to art and philosophy, the Romans for their pioneering services in law and government, the British for bringing parliamentary rule into the world, and the Americans for piloting democracy in a pluralistic society. The Jews were chosen by God to be peculiar unto me, as the pioneers of religion and morality. That was and is their national purpose. Rabbi Norman Lamb, a leader of modern Orthodox Judaism, writes, "The chosenness of Israel relates exclusively to its spiritual vocation embodied in the Torah. The doctrine, indeed, was announced at Sinai. Whenever it is mentioned in our liturgy, such as the blessing immediately preceding the Shema, it is always related to Torah or mitzvot." This spiritual vocation consists of 2 complementary functions, described as Goy Kadosh, that of a holy nation, and Mamlaka Kohanim, that of a kingdom of priests. The first term denotes the development of communal separateness or differences in order to achieve a collective self-transcendence. The second term implies the obligation of this brotherhood of the spiritual elite toward the rest of mankind. Priesthood as defined by the prophets is fundamentally a teaching vocation. Conservative views. Conservative Judaism views the concept of chosenness in this way. Few beliefs have been subject to as much misunderstanding as the chosen people doctrine. The Torah and the prophets clearly stated that this does not imply any innate Jewish superiority. In the words of Amos, "You alone have I singled out of all the families of the earth, that is why I will call you to account for your iniquities." The Torah tells us that we are to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation, with obligations and duties which flowed from our willingness to accept this status. Far from being a license for special privilege, it entailed additional responsibilities not only toward God but to our fellow human beings. As expressed in the blessing at the reading of the Torah, our people have always felt it to be a privilege to be selected for such a purpose. For the modern traditional Jew, the doctrine of the election and the covenant of Israel offers a purpose for Jewish existence which transcends its own self-interests. It suggests that because of our special history and unique heritage we are in a position to demonstrate that a people that takes seriously the idea of being covenanted with God can not only thrive in the face of oppression, but can be a source of blessing to its children and its neighbors. It obligates us to build a just and compassionate society throughout the world and especially in the land of Israel, where we may teach by example what it means to be a covenant people, a light unto the nations. Rabbi Reuven Hammer comments on the excised sentence in the Alenu prayer mentioned above. Originally the text read that God has not made us like the nations who bow down to nothingness and vanity, and pray to an impotent God. In the Middle Ages these words were censored, since the Church believed they were an insult to Christianity. Omitting them tends to give the impression that the Alenu teaches that we are both different and better than others. The actual intent is to say that we are thankful that God has enlightened us so that, unlike the pagans, we worship the true God and not idols. There is no inherent superiority in being Jewish, but we do assert the superiority of monotheistic belief over paganism. Although paganism still exists today, we are no longer the only ones to have a belief in one God. Reform views. Reform Judaism views the concept of chosenness in this way. Throughout the ages it has been Israel's mission to witness to the divine in the face of every form of paganism and materialism. We regard it as a historic task to cooperate with all men in the establishment of the kingdom of God, of universal brotherhood, justice, truth and peace on earth. This is our messianic goal. In 1999, the Reform movement stated, "We affirm that the Jewish people are bound to God by an eternal covenant, as reflected in our varied understandings of creation, revelation and redemption. We are Israel, a people aspiring to holiness, singled out through our ancient covenant and our unique history among the nations to be witnesses to God's presence. We are linked by that covenant and that history to all Jews in every age and place.